started this work in 2017, and as you said, the film worked with a group of residents of Beirut who have different experiences of displacement. So who kind of arrived to the country at different stages, or even were born there, and a couple of them are Lebanese, but their families experienced displacement. I worked with them to sew borders, kind of personal borders, onto maps, political maps. And the project with them wanted to talk about the temporality of displacement, going back. So we kind of start using map to talk about how these borders on maps kind of have a historic dimension. So the work goes back into the history of displacement in the Middle East and in the region, and to talk about the temporal dimension of borders, such as the recurrence of displacement in the area, issues of waiting or being on hold in the country, in Lebanon, due to visa situation, for example, or for the legal status of some of them. So in a way, through the sewing exercise, I was interested in kind of having the personal narratives of the participants, of the displaced, and to kind of bring their own testimonies, their own around borders, into the map or onto the maps. I mean, I grew up in Beirut in the 70s, late 70s and 80s, in a divided city. So kind of the borders start really to shape your life, the way you navigate the city, but also the way you think of your future somehow. So kind of ideas of limitations and restrictions. But more importantly, in recent times, I became more fascinated with the transformation of borders, or their impact on our daily life, in the form of practices and processes that are could be invisible and immaterial, what I call bordering practices. And I became more interested, particularly in 2005, after the assassination of former Prime Minister Rafiq Hariri and the withdrawal of the Syrian troops from Lebanon, and the resurfacing of a new type of borders in the city, and new forms of political alliances. This was a moment where it started to affect my daily life in particular, and plans as an artist, and as a resident of Beirut. So borders became more relevant, or relevant again somehow. And surely other things fascinate me about borders, like perhaps many people, the idea that they are constructions, that they are representations, that they are man-made, yet they are so powerful and impactful somehow. Also the idea of what I became interested in, as I said, bordering practices, their immateriality, their temporality. And also issue that I found very interesting is the subjectivity of border, that what makes the border is the way a person experiences it. So a border for you might not be a border for me. So it depends on how you experience that border in relation to your background, in relation to your where you're from, your color, your ethnicity, and so on. Something I think a lot of it. The idea is there a possibility of imagining the world without borders? And here, where we start to, we have to think of the border in a more kind of perhaps abstract way, and to think of any kind of form of line, that we that we plot, any form of boundary, a wall, an edge that we plot as a form of border. If you think of representation as a form of borders, so it becomes impossible to imagine the world without. However, the question becomes, when are they kind of mechanisms of exclusion, of segregation and separation, and when are they kind of boundaries that perhaps allowed certain connection, communication, sharing. So it kind of it depends on how they are really used, what are they for, and how they are perceived, I guess.